Hi everybody, and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Relationships, and it's by user Pew Pew Throw It Away. I, 26 female, think I made a mistake reintroducing my recently divorced friend, 30 male, and my unhappily married friend, 27 female, in a group hangout. I'm now afraid I'm going to lose a friend or see a messy situation unfold. Mike. Mike is my first close platonic male friend and close friend with my husband. Mike is recently divorced after his wife cheated on him and has emotionally been going through a hard time. He was the best man at our wedding and we hang out with him probably at least twice a week. Sarah. I go to grad school with Sarah. Sarah has been recently unhappy in her marriage. Sarah has caused me a lot of pain in the past by being quick to anger and a bully. I try to limit my exposure to her in order to keep the peace and limit her effect on my social anxiety. So here's what happened. We all hung out Wednesday for the first time, and I remembered too late that Sarah is a huge flirt, tackling and hugging Mike who she barely knows, which I think is a douche move to do to a divorced man, especially when you're married. She's been overly flirty with men in the past, sitting on males' friends' laps, telling them about her sex life. She even aggressively tried to be my husband's best bud for a while and still complains to me that he doesn't want to be good friends with her. Reason being that he dislikes her, but I digress. Later, Sarah seemed overly interested when my husband mentioned that Mike had been the stereotypical horny single guy lately, and then she complained to my husband and me about her terrible sex life. It seemed too coincidental the next day when she texted me asking for Mike's number. I asked what was up and she said, "Nothing, just gonna say, hey, smiley face, I enjoyed hanging out and don't actually know him that well." She also scored an invite accidentally to our weekly climb with Mike on Sunday, and I'm afraid she's going to try to join us every week. Since Sarah has been such a big anxiety trigger in the past, I don't want this to happen. This is giving me the worst anxiety I've felt in ages. Part of it is fearing that I'm going to lose Mike as a friend to Sarah, which I know is irrational, but I can't reason my way out of it. I'm also afraid, knowing how aggressively she pursues guy friends, that we're going to see a weird situation unfold. Please help me figure out how to keep Sarah from joining the weekly hangout. I was thinking of pulling Mike aside and telling him, "Hey, I see Sarah all the time at school and I don't want to make climbing with her every week a thing. Could you downplay how often you go or not say anything if she asks about it?" Well, OP, the first thing I would say is you shouldn't have given Mike's number. It's not your number to give. If anybody ever calls you and asks for somebody's number outside of an emergency, you say, "I'm sorry, but it's not my number to give." You can contact them in social media, or next time you see them, ask for their number if you really need it. But I guess that ship has sailed because now you're concerned about Sarah going to your weekly climb every week. I'd be more concerned about the damage that this could do all around your friend group. Look, I have no idea what Sarah's intentions truly are. I don't know if she's just looking for a shoulder to talk to or somebody to actually have an affair with. It could range. But what I do know is that, as you've pointed out, nothing good can come out of this. If worst thing happens, that Mike does engage with Sarah and they become a thing, well, it's gonna blow up Sarah's marriage and probably blow up your group friend as well. If it goes the other way and Mike rejects all of Sarah's advances and makes her bitter or angry or something, it's gonna make your life miserable. So I would say, now that you have given Sarah Mike's number, call him, give him a heads up and tell him what's going on. And as a side note, Sarah shouldn't be sharing that intimate information with people on dinner parties, but that's beside the point. What do you guys think about all of this? What would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comments section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Owls and Cardinals says, "I think you should be honest with Mike. Let him know she is still married. As he is someone who has been cheated on recently, I hope he would find the idea of engaging in a flirtation or romance with a married person abhorrent. And that because they met through you, you feel you should let him know that she is aggressive, quick to anger, and has been a bully at times in the past, and that you've actually had to keep her at arm's length for these reasons. I think you should be able to leave it at that. If he enters a relationship with her and or expects her to be incorporated in your frequent hangouts, you'll probably have to start distancing yourself from them both." MM172 says, why not just tell Mike that you see Sarah as more of a grad school acquaintance than a friend, and you've had trouble getting her to recognize that in the past before asking for this not to become a weekly thing? If Mike's really the kind of friend you want to keep, he'll get it and figure out how to manage the situation on his own. If he'd rather hang out with Sarah, then this friendship probably isn't destined to be a long-lasting or close one anyway. And if he'd rather have an affair with Sarah, then you're going to want to be as far from this mess as possible. Really though, I think you need to steel yourself against Sarah's bullying tendencies and stop letting her intrude on your life outside of class. Did you give her Mike's number? Why would you do that? Tell her you need to check whether that's okay with him and then either forget or have the conversation about not really wanting to see her all that often when you pass along the request. Whether that constantly involves being busy or flat out telling her that she's ignored boundaries one too many times for your taste is up to you, but it is ultimately your job to manage your relationship or lack of one with her, not Mike's. Another kitty says, you're letting Sarah cause you way too much anxiety for no reason. It is not your responsibility what she does or doesn't do. You can give Mike a warning, but if he doesn't listen, there's not too much you can do. You're not responsible for either of their actions, and it's not your fault that Sarah is a flirt. Sarah sounds more like a frenemy than a friend, and you probably should try to spend less time with her. However, you can block her from joining a group or get together if there are people other than you, your husband, and Mike. If it's just you three, then it's pretty simple. Don't invite her and ask Mike not to. You can also be direct and talk to Sarah. Let her know that as a married woman, you're not going to help her flirt with your friends. When she asked for Mike's number, did you give it to her? I hope not. You should have been straightforward and said no. It sounds like partly you're afraid of standing up to Sarah. Alright, well the community gave OP some pretty solid advice as to what she should do and what to think about. And also some of them were kind of weirded out that she would give Mike's number out. Now, they are questioning if she did. I'm assuming she did because her big problem is Sarah joining the climbing weekend. So that's why I assumed she did give Mike's number out. Anyways, OP didn't give us any context in the comment section, so let's just move on to the update to see how this story ends. So, a ton of people responded to help me with my problem. Thank you so much. I honestly thought the only answers I get were A, get a hold of your anxiety, or B, why is this your business at all? I did get some of those responses and I completely understand where you're coming from. Both of those things went across my mind and I was open to being persuaded that it was just me that was the problem. However, many of you gave me very concrete things to do for this situation and solid things to think about when it comes to my friendship with Sarah. I'll explain more about the friendship with Sarah after I explained what happened when I talked to Mike last night. My husband Mike and I play on a weekly rec league team, so I was excited I could put everyone's advice to work so quickly. Mike and I were talking about climbing and I brought it up and tried to include quite a bit of what people had suggested. I was super nervous. As many of you astutely picked up, I'm not good at all with any conflict situations. Here is how that conversation went. Speaking of climbing, Mike, about Sarah, I'd kind of like that she doesn't come to any other climbs. I see her a lot at school, and when I see her too often, well, she's got these anger problems and she gets angry very easily with me, so I'd like if this could be a one-time deal. He nodded. Yeah, sure, no problem. He looked away for a second like he was trying to formulate how to say what he was thinking in a politically correct way. So, is your friend Sarah a particularly social person? Yeah, she is. He nodded and seemed somewhat relieved. Okay, good. He still seemed somewhat restless, so I nervously added, she can also be a huge flirt. Now he really nodded and seemed grimly satisfied. He added, I was wondering that. She was texting me a lot yesterday. I thought that was kind of strange. He said it in a way that implied it made him very uncomfortable. She does that to a lot of our guy friends. We've got one guy friend that at a party she repeatedly kept sitting in his lap, even when he seemed uncomfortable and stood up. As soon as he sat back down, she'd get back in his lap. She never tells her husband she does any of this. He grimly nodded again and didn't seem surprised. As an aside, and I should have mentioned this in the first post, Mike has met Sarah's husband, Jay. They were both groomsmen at our wedding. That was also the first time Mike met Sarah, but they didn't spend any significant time talking to each other like he probably did with Jay. He then said, "I don't know if you guys noticed me giving you two the hard stare during dinner the other night, but she seemed to pretend that she didn't know who I was talking about when I mentioned Jay, so I'd frequently say, you know, your husband." After he mentioned it, my husband remembered hearing him say that once. He finally shrugged and said, "Well, I'm fine with making it a one and done thing for climbing Sunday. Success! I feel bad that I ever doubted him." As for the friendship with Sarah, I find if I restrict it to seeing her socially about once a month, the peace can be kept. We have a ton of common interests and she's very outgoing, obviously, so it's easy to keep a conversation going. Everybody has a mix of good and bad. However, while I know my conflict skills aren't great because I verge on being a doormat, her only conflict skill is rage, which became apparent when we hung out all the time. Now we are on good terms because our interactions are too spaced out to invite conflict. For now, the friendship is too tied up in grad school to ghost it away completely. And we have a close mutual friend that may get complicated by blowing this friendship up. I do graduate in 2.5 months though, and from reading your comments, I will seriously consider phasing her out. I still walk on eggshells around her, and it's just not worth it. Hopefully, crap won't go down on climbing Sunday when she joins us. However, as a happy ending-ish, after last night, we think Mike may be starting up again with his ex, who is very sweet and he only broke up because he wasn't ready for anything serious post-divorce. My husband thinks they're endgame material. Extended update from OP's comments. I feel insanely bad for Jay. You guys are probably wondering what he's like, and I'd say he's a super nice, goofy, kind of oblivious but uncomplicated guy. The things she complains about him the most are that he's not adventurous enough in the bedroom. She's literally complained about this for the last 2 years and has not once asked him to try these things she wants to try. Complete lack of communication. She also complains that he doesn't clean enough around the house. They're both slobs, honestly. Every time I go over there, there's cat and dog crap and pee on the floor. She expects him to do most of the cleaning since she's in grad school, even though he works full time. Finally, she complains that he's jealous. He's a normal level of jealousy, I'd say, especially since he's been cheated on in 2 other relationships. He doesn't restrict her activities or tell her not to hang out with people. She has a very close male friend who she told us once she asked, "Hey, how come we never dated?" Her friend answered, "Because we were never single at the same time." She told her husband and then complained to our other friend and me that he got mad. Fancy that? Unfortunately, I don't think I can tell Jay anything right now other than, "Hey, your wife is texting my friend." If she gets really weird with this situation, I'm gearing myself up to say something to her. Which I know would freaking blow her away because I think she's under the impression that even being married, since she's slender or hot, she can do what she wants and guys won't mind. OP's comment final update. So I texted Sarah the time for climbing and I phrased it, "If you and Jay are game," officially inviting her husband. She seemed pretty half-hearted when I invited Jay. She said she was maybe in now and unsure about Jay. About 50 minutes before we were supposed to be there, she sent one of those "I'm sick now suddenly" text messages. I think the combo of Jay possibly coming with and the realization that she'd actually have to climb and not just flirt with Mike hit her pretty hard. When we got there and we were getting ready, Mike asked, "So where's Sarah?" I said flatline. She said she wasn't feeling well. I'd already said my piece last night and didn't want to lay into it again. He said, "You looked really disappointed about that." That felt kind of awkward or mean after just trying to look out for him and Jay, so I didn't answer. It wasn't brought up again, fortunately, and we ended up having a great time. Thanks everyone for reading and helping, and for whoever had the idea to invite her husband, that was genius. Well, OP, this is a happy update and I'm glad things worked out like this. Sarah is out of the picture for Mike and there's not gonna be any kind of weird scenario. So all the best in the future, OP, and thank you for sharing. Take care. Now, let's move on to the next post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user Epic Normalcy. And this is why I love my boss. I work at a small mom-and-pop pizza place in a small town. We're the only not gas station pizza place in town. Friday nights get busy. So my boss is cooking and I'm waitressing. The cook cooks and the waitress does everything else. It would be nice to have 2 of us, but we manage and the people of our town expect it and respect it after all these years. It's busy. I've got several tables and the phone has been ringing off the hook with to-go orders. I've got piles of dishes, someone is constantly at the register, and food is constantly ready to go out. My customers are being great. Everyone is smiling and laughing and not worried that things are taking a bit longer than a Tuesday night. I was busy but not stressed yet. Then he calls. Some guy from out of town. There was a high school game, so we had a few out-of-towners that night. He orders a large thin crust. Our thin crust is very thin, about as thin as a cracker crust, but it's not crispy like that. Pizza with pepperoni. Easy peasy. He wants it well done. Can do. He wants us to put it in the oven for an extra 5 minutes. I say okay with zero intention of doing that. We have a brick oven. Our thins go in the oven for 3 to 4 minutes and 4.5 for well done. That's total. This guy wants 5 extra minutes on top of that. He wants a 16-inch charcoal hockey puck. I assume he thinks he knows what he's talking about and just put it on the ticket. Well done. We do our thing. His pizza looks beautiful. He comes in to pick it up and before paying he opens the box to inspect the pizza. This is normal and I'm not worried. He goes, "I asked for my pizza well done." This is how we make our pizzas well done. Any more than this and your pizza will burn. "I'm not paying for this. I'm not eating this. I want a new one and I want it how I ordered. Put it in for 5 more minutes." At this point, my boss taps me on the shoulder and tells me to take over the cooking while he handles the customer. Our kitchen abuts the register counter. I'm literally making pizza 5 feet away from the interaction, so I get to hear the whole thing. My boss tries to tell the guy how long we usually cook the pizzas and what's going to happen to his pizza, etc, etc. The customer is having none of it. He wants this pizza cooked the normal time plus an additional 5 minutes. After a few minutes, I can tell my boss has had enough of this guy. He tells him, "Are you sure you don't just want this pizza?" Meaning the one we had already made. Guy says no, so my boss brings it out to one of our regulars and lets him have it. He comes back to the guy and informs him if he wants his pizza cooked for 9 minutes, he needs to pay first. The guy seems satisfied and pays. I hop back to waitressing and the boss takes over cooking and making this guy his pizza. It goes in the oven looking beautiful. Boss sets the timer for 9 minutes and makes sure to show the guy the timer. He just smiles and chuckles a bit. I'm buzzing tables and checking people out and answering the phone while we wait on this guy's pizza. The timer goes off for his pizza. The guy comes closer to the counter. It's my job to cut the pizza as soon as boss man puts it in the box. He lifts this solid black hard-ass charcoal hockey puck out of the oven and sets it in the box. You can barely tell it's a pizza anymore. I attempt to cut it, but it is so overcooked, it more or less just cracks and crumbles. My back is to the guy, so I can't see his face, but I can imagine it. I close the box, turn around, and hand it to him with a smile on my face, and I say, "Enjoy your pizza, sir." The guy stutters a bit. "Oh, I can't eat that." The boss says, "We made your pizza to order. If you want a new pizza, you'll need to order a new one and pay for that." The guy has this completely broken look on his face. I was actually almost looking forward to a blow-up. My boss is a force to be reckoned with if you curse or disrespect us. He left his pizza on the counter and left. This is why I love my boss. Well, you tried to tell him many different times and in different ways that his pizza would be burnt, but he wasn't hearing it. Sorry, guy. Thanks for sharing, OP. And it's that time that we've reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. I really did enjoy reading them to you. So if you did, then don't be shy and go ahead and give the video a like. And don't forget to subscribe or even share this video with people that you might think will enjoy my storytelling. Also, if you have the time, go down to the video description and check out all the links I have for you, from our Discord community to my channel merch. And finally, I'd like to say thank you for watching. It really means a lot to me that you enjoy my videos. And having said all that, I'll see you guys in the next video.